Of my magazine, the daily guides. I did think about looking for something other than the daily guides. I did a search through the Science of Mind magazine. There's quite a few decent articles in there, but then I fell back on this one because I think it's important. So here we are. It is called Loving My Mistakes. And the first quote is from George R. Martin, who says, "Once you've accepted your flaws, no one can use them against you." Yeah, that's pretty cool. Once you've accepted your flaws, no one can use them against you. Why? Because if they point something out and said, "Yep, I appreciate you saying that. I do realize that." It's kind of a relief, yeah. And Ernest Holmes, in Words That Heal Today, it's actually on page 187, paragraph 3, he says, "The mistakes, fears, and doubts of yesterday we need not bury. They will liquidate themselves when they no longer find nourishment in today. That which we refuse to feed shrivels up and dies." In other words, once we stop focusing on what we've done in the past and concentrate on the now, the stuff that happened in the past starts to fade away and can no longer influence how we feel, think, and act today, which is good. I do have a few remarks on this. Anyway, here's Reverend Michelle, who says, "One barrier to self-love might be that we feel we've just made too many mistakes to be deserving of love. Our mistakes may have been costly to us and to other people. We use these experiences to beat ourselves down and keep ourselves from experiencing grace. Yet, what might happen if we decided instead to love our mistakes?" And then she repeats it. She said, "Yes, I said love our mistakes." Now, maybe we don't love that they happened, or maybe we would have preferred other experiences. Yet, what benefit are we getting from beating ourselves up about something in the past? The only benefit we get is feeling righteous about not deserving our own self-love. He says, that's not much of a perk. And she goes on to say, well, what can we love about our mistakes? Can we love what we learned? Can we love who we became because of them? Can we love how we may have changed our ways or our approach because of them, in spite of them? Sometimes we're good at giving other humans the benefit of the doubt. We assume good about them and work to not take things personally. I would suggest we do the same with ourselves, that we give ourselves the benefit of the doubt and embrace the grace that emerges from our errors. I suggest we stop taking our own mistakes personally and give ourselves a break that includes continued self-acceptance and love, even in the presence of our foibles, mistakes. We'll make mistakes, and we can continue to love and honor ourselves in the midst of them. And I would say in spite of them. I actually like this topic's good because a lot of us are pretty good at beating ourselves up, and we're often very good at forgiving other people when they've done stuff that's not good. Yeah, I know not everybody's that way. You can go on social media and you can find people who deliberately go out and try and castigate, bring down other people because of the mistakes. But by and large, I think most of us actually do try to give other people the benefits of the doubt in places where we wouldn't do that for ourselves. So I think it's important. I also think I want to highlight one thing that Reverend Michelle mentioned about learning from our mistakes. Reverend Jesse, my senior minister, often points out that we learn by our mistakes. If we are prepared to accept that we've made a mistake And instead of berating ourselves or beating ourselves up about it, if we look and say, what can I learn from this mistake? Then it's a really great way to continue to advance in life. In fact, when I forget how old I was. I think I was a teenager. I was at college anyway. And I was working, oh no, it was in between my college years. I was working for a civil engineering company, and the boss of the company was berating people about making mistakes. And I turned around and said to him, the person who hasn't made a mistake has not yet been born. And he didn't argue with me. So I think it's great if instead of beating ourselves up about mistakes, we can look at them and say, what can I learn from this? But of course, if we have hurt people because of our mistakes, yes, we have a duty to go and attempt to make amends. Sometimes the people have gone, they're not on the planet anymore, but we can still mentally go and apologize to them. So really and truly, if you think about it, I mean, if you think about Edison and the light bulb, and I'm sure most of you heard the quote before, and probably it gets exaggerated all the time. Anyway, when he was being berated for not inventing the light bulb, he didn't say, I screwed up. He said, I've just learned X number of ways not to make a light bulb. And in other words, that brings me nearer to making that light bulb, the incandescent light bulb that we relied on until really recently, until we replaced them with different kinds of light bulbs nowadays. Replace them with ones which last a lot longer and are a lot less dangerous to the atmosphere. So I think the way to look at mistakes is, yeah, own up to them, admit we made them, and then go back and say, well, what can I learn from this? What can it teach me? How can I learn to use this to improve in the future? So that is my message for today. I'm not sure if I think Reverend Lisa was on this morning because I saw some people were, liking the reading she did, and of course she'll be back tomorrow morning at 9:15 on Creative Life Spiritual Center's Facebook page, and the service for tomorrow at Creative Life Spiritual Center will be on its own Facebook page, and then later on YouTube. I'll be back tomorrow on wherever you saw this, and I was quite surprised actually that I was getting a lot of people reading this on Tumblr, for instance. So, yeah. Uh, one thing I will say is this. When we start to own up to our mistakes and we start to learn from them, we actually change the way we think and feel. And believe me, people can see this. You immediately can tell if somebody starts making excuses for the mistakes they've made. And then somebody else says, yes, I made a mistake. I apologize. I made a mistake and I will do my best not to do that in future. My question is, how do you feel about those two different people? The one who starts arguing about making excuses for the way they made the mistake, and somebody said, yep, I made a mistake and I will do my best to do it differently in future. Which of those two people do you admire the most? And guess what? One of them is probably you. So be kind to yourself, be good to yourself. And the other reading I considered reading today was actually about being kind to yourself. So look, learn from the mistakes, be kind to yourself, and be kind to others when they make mistakes. So that is my message today. And Reverend Michelle says, I love my evolutionary journey through all my successes and errors. I love my evolutionary journey through all of my successes and my errors. They're all good. It makes us who we are. And when we're prepared to learn from things, we really grow as individuals. So I'm knowing for each and every one who watches this that they develop the ability to learn from mistakes, admit mistakes, and carry on to being better people. And I claim this as a truth in the divine mind. And I release it and say, and so it is. Gratitude. And until next time, namaste.